Hi, I'm Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. Are you tired of your body feeling like a lifelong project? From our youth to middle age to old age, most women constantly carry around the pressure to work on their bodies to make them smaller, stronger, and tighter. I often think of one of my grandmothers who, for all of her delight and beauty and creativity and warmth, was rarely not on a diet in her near constant pursuit of smallness. I sometimes wonder about the years' worth of time that she devoted to changing her body, only to meet the prescribed size she had long sought for while on her literal deathbed. I know my grandma's life was not a waste. I can so easily drum up her wide smile and her teasing voice, encouraging me on in my boldness. But I do feel sad for her and for all of us women who were and are pushed to seek smallness at the sacrifice of wholeness, robbed of living right here and right now, and missing out on directing that time and energy towards more trying and doing and changing outside of our bodies. I wonder what could have been different for my grandma if that had been the case. And I wonder what could be different for all of us. Health and longevity do matter. It's a priority for all of us to live long, healthy lives. But I guess my bigger question is, how can we do so without it necessarily being about always being smaller, tighter, stronger? Our bodies have always and will continue to always change. So what should we as women do with this puzzle of wanting to live long, healthy lives, but also recognizing that our bodies do change? Today, I have a helpful interview in pursuit of answering that conundrum. That interview is with Meg Hadley. In it, we talk about what we lose as women when we focus so much on our weight and how to do so in the bodies we have now, even without not totally accepting them. I know this is a very complicated topic for all of us, and I hope as you listen that you don't feel shame in any way. Health and our bodies are so personal, but this interview is shared with hopes to help you get clarity on how you want to pursue both. Meg Hadley is a registered dietitian nutritionist who is on a mission to help women stress and obsess less about food and their bodies so that they can experience true health, enjoy life more, and make a bigger impact on the world. She does this through one-to-one nutrition and body image counseling and group programs through her private practice, Simple Nutrition, in Greensboro, North Carolina. Meg is a wife and mom to 2 girls. She's an Enneagram 5 and an introvert who loves reading, French fries, good wine, fashion, naps, and Jesus, but not necessarily in that order. Our interview is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Air Doctor. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors, but did you know that the indoor air we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? I think a lot of you are coming around to that fact because I've gotten more and more messages asking what air purifier I have and if I'd recommend it. And the answer is Air Doctor, and yes, I 100% would recommend it. You can breathe easy with Air Doctor, the award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. One of my sons was recently diagnosed with more indoor allergies, and the doctor was relieved to hear we already have an air purifier. You can top that off with lots of smog days in our beautiful Salt Lake Valley, and I can tell you that the relief I have is high, both emotionally and physically, that Air Doctor is in my home. Air Doctor was voted Best Air Purifier by Newsweek, so it's no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree. Their home's air feels cleaner, safer, and healthier, and the Packer family is one of those happy customers. Unlike other purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code MONICA to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's AIRDOCTORPRO.com using promo code MONICA. One of the long-standing things that has connected us as a community is the Do Something list. The first one I ever made way back in 2016 totally changed my life and actually led to this podcast. And I have heard from hundreds of women over the years from the About Progress community that the Do Something list has changed their lives too. What is it? Well, it's a way for you to prioritize your own fulfillment, to explore who you are, and all outside the pressures of goals and resolutions. If you're ready to have more hobbies, to have more creativity, to have more fun, or rest, or connection this year, whatever it is, make sure you make your own Do Something list. To help you, I have a free training that is ready for you online right now. Go to aboutprogress.com/DSL, and you can sign up for my free training, which includes a video and audio workshop, resources, including a guide and examples of so many DSLs from real women of this community. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/DSL to get your free training. Megan Hadley, welcome to About Progress.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. I've been really excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm relieved to have this conversation with you. It's not only refreshing to talk to someone who knows this personally, but also professionally, how to live boldly in the bodies that we have. And I think we're putting another thing on the end of that, including, or even more so, especially as you age. And I'm just going to start right off and say, this has been one of the surprising forms of insecurity I've been facing the last few years. Even though I've done so much work on identity and separating it from my body, it still has challenged me to be in a body that looks and feels different from me. And I know that's just the start. So can we begin by getting clear about the messaging that women are receiving in general, but including as they're beginning the aging process about their bodies?
Well, I feel like I'm like right in my mid 40s. So like the stuff that I hear coming, I can relate so much to, experiencing these body changes that I don't feel like anybody really talked about happening like this
Yeah.
early in the stage of things. I was like, late 30s. I feel like I started noticing shifts, and then things just kept shifting and my body continued to change. And I I feel like because of that, I've started to pay more attention to the messages that are coming at us about this and almost kind of seeking them out because I put so much, because of the work that I do, I put so much in my social media feed and whatnot. It's so tailored to hearing messages that align with my own when it comes to food and body. And so I've been trying to seek out and hear over the years, like, what is it that we're hearing at this stage? Because this has to be such an adjustment for so many women to experience more belly fat, to experience more sagging, more rolls. Different things are just different. Clothes fit differently. And that puts us in such a vulnerable place. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I felt like I'd be interested to see what you're seeing out there, but I felt like a lot of what I saw was a message that was like, of course, there's the specific, like stubborn belly fat. There's the stubborn belly fat messages, and these are the things that you can do. Stubborn belly fat. There's this, these bodies need protein and massive amounts of protein. There's that message out there to the extent that I feel like women could make, calculating protein grams like a whole nother part-time job on top of their
Yes.
existing jobs, right?
Mhm.
There's just a lot of emphasis on you should be paying attention to this issue and working against it. And so the message that I feel like that women are hearing is that, okay, your body is shifting. Now try harder,
Yeah.
there are more hoops to jump through, right? At a time in our lives where that is the last thing that any of us need. We may have children, we may have aging parents, we may be at kind of the height of our career so far. We have known and learned so much. It is such a cool place and also such a demanding place in our lives. And here we have our bodies changing, which we're like, wait, what? What is this? And the message that we're receiving in response is like, oh no, you can fix that. And you should just double down and try harder. Here's, 20 different ways that you can try to do this.
Oh gosh, it really hit me when you said do more, especially when we've already had that message our whole lives to do, especially when it comes to our bodies. And it all comes down to a character weakness if we don't look like the people on the cover of the magazines.
Hmm.
So I think we know this logically about how this can affect the way we view our bodies and ourselves. But coupled with the added pressures of beginning to age or being in the well into the aging process, what are we living out consequence wise? Like, what are you seeing out there about how this is affecting women and the lives they are living or not really living?
It makes our bodies a lifelong project, really, because our bodies aren't done changing. They're not done changing for midlife. Like I said, even just in my personal experience of the past, 6 years, our bodies will continue to change. We will constantly, every day, move further away from the beauty standard that's put before us. And so, it can make it to where your body becomes this lifelong project. I mean, the truth of the matter is that statistics show that over 90% of women are dissatisfied with their bodies and they're dieting in response to that. And dieting means really any attempt to change your body shape or size. A lot of times we think diet, we think really extreme stuff, but
Hmm.
really calorie tracking on MyFitnessPal and trying to hit certain numbers or things like that count as well as a way to try to change our body shape and size. And it takes a lot of energy from us and headspace from us. And because of that, like the truth of the matter is most women will spend their 40s and their 50s, still endlessly trying to make their bodies smaller. And I think at sacrifice of different ways that we could be making our lives bigger because it does require so much headspace. It's the hoops to jump through. It's the tracking of the protein and the counting of the calories or the macros or whatever it might be. Most women that come to see me, I always have a magic question in the end after we unpacked all kinds of stuff together for like an hour and 15 minutes. I'm like, you could wave a magic wand, like what would happen? And women are always like, yes, I would love to be smaller. But the first thing that out of their mouths is always, I would like to think less about food and my body. That is the thing I hear consistently over and over and over again is I feel like I think about food in my body all the time. And I would like to think about it less. And like, it begs the question of like, what could we be thinking about? What would that inspire us to do? How much better could we possibly feel if we weren't thinking about that all of the time? Because rarely is it in a positive way, right? It's usually in a negative way that affects how we show up in the world. Because if we're constantly thinking about how we're feeling in this area of our lives, it can impact the way we show up. And we can show up less boldly in all different areas of our lives.
I would love some examples of that. And I think that would help both myself and the listeners really be able to picture that for ourselves. Like, what are the ways that I am standing on the sidelines of my life because so much of my headspace is being captured by this obsession that I don't even want. So, can you tell us some examples of women? Like, what are things they've been putting on hold and waiting for?
Yeah, I've had women tell me that they are in jobs where they need to regularly be in front of audiences and they're questioning themselves before they go up there. They are thinking, the words that I hear repeated is, how can anybody take me seriously in this body?
Hmm. Okay.
What would be unleashed in that woman if she didn't have that thought before she got up on stage? You know, what types of things would she go for? What different places could her message be brought out to if she didn't say to herself, how can anybody take me seriously in this body? There's women who say, I will take this class or I will take this vacation. I will be more intimate with my partner when my body, becomes
Is
smaller.
smaller.
When
Hmm.
my body comes smaller, then. When my body comes smaller, then I'll participate in the different types of movement that I'm interested in participating in.
Yeah.
Um, when my body comes smaller, then maybe I'll feel more comfortable wearing the bathing suit at the pool with my kids and I'll get in the water more instead of sitting on the side of the pool. Um, you know, those are some of the things that I find that women have told me that they held back from taking steps forward in. But there's also just the way that we might be experiencing those things when we're doing them.
Hmm.
Somebody might be getting in the pool with the kid. They might be putting on the swimsuit and doing it anyway, right? But what's happening in their head the entire time is comparison, is wondering what people think about them and their body. And what I found is that when women are able to work more in this area, they're able to be more in their body instead of outside their body, wondering what people are thinking about their body when they're in these experiences. And so I
Mm.
think one of the things that happens then is connection.
Okay. Connection to themselves and to the other people. Okay.
Connection to themselves, but connection to their experiences and other people.
Yeah.
Another way that I feel like sometimes women feel held back is that there's so many social experiences that happen around food. It can be a one-to-one friend experience. And sometimes that, the first thing that somebody does when they sit down is they're trying to figure out, I call it mental Jenga. Like, how does this out to eat meal fit within the rest of my food day? Like, if I eat this, what can I have or not have later? You know, or if somebody is feeling like they need to count or track something, that's happening in their head. Like, how does this fit in? Instead of that connection across the table. And that connection can be missed.
Okay. So before we go on to some ways that they can work towards that,
Mhm.
being present, actually experiencing what's happening to their bodies and in their bodies and with other people and with themselves, I think it might be nice to paint a picture of what they can expect to be normal. What can they expect to happen to their body? And it's still, it
Yes.
may not be fun, but it's still
Mhm.
normal and it's actually healthy. Like maybe we have more fat or wrinkles or rolls. So answer that for me. What can they expect?
Well, they can expect that they may not know what to expect.
Huh.
I always
Yeah.
tell my clients is that I don't have a magic ball and I can't promise what will happen to your body when you stop constantly trying to make it smaller. It can stay the same. It can become bigger. It can become smaller. Anything could happen to one's body. And anybody who's trying to tell you that you can always receive one predictable outcome from doing anything is not telling the whole truth. There's no way we can know how a body is going to respond to any type of changes that we do. And so, somebody might have still a stomach that they're uncomfortable with, or thighs that still rub together, or arms that still flap, or that they hate in pictures whenever they leave their arm down. Somebody may still have those things. Somebody may still not love the way that they look in pictures, but they may be loving the life that they're living around those things more. Because there's a trade-off. I feel like that's not what we're ever told, is that if you're constantly having to work so hard to try to make or keep too is another message. Keep your body smaller, because fear of weight gain can be
Hmm.
equally as restrictive in life as trying to lose weight. There's a trade-off for that. There's a trade-off, and that's in the energy. And so women might say, like, yeah, like, I don't love my stomach. Yeah, I wish that I was X number of sizes smaller. Um, but I'm not thinking about food in my body all the time anymore. I feel like when I go to the beach now with my family, I feel like I can be more present and just have fun. I feel like I'm not worrying so much and playing mental Jenga. It different changes up with my eating. I can be flexible. I can enjoy food more. It's a level of enjoyment overall that increases. And it might be. And I'm not super comfortable with my body either. but it doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy life. I think the message that we always get around thinness is that if I'm thinner, then I'm going to be happier, more successful, more accepted. That is the path that we're told, is that if we go this way, then that's how we get to these things that we want. When in reality is that we can have those things by starting to have them, invest them in the body that we have now immediately.
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to get the path to get there, but releasing those messages can be hard.
Yeah, I think it's always good to know out the gate what to expect as you are making shifts to treat your body healthfully, but not to always be in the pursuit of smallness. That to fall for that messaging, it's good to know what works, what's part of that. It's going to be a little bit messy. It means it doesn't mean you're going to love it all of a sudden, and
Mhm.
there are going to be changes to your body that you may not like, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
This episode is sponsored by Element. If you struggle with headaches, cramps, fatigue, brain fog, or general weakness, did you know that it could be due to you having an electrolyte deficiency or imbalance? Electrolytes are charged minerals that aid in hydration to our very cells, which are very important. And busy women often need help with hydration, and I'm no different. This is why I adore, and I mean adore, our sponsor, Element, spelled LMNT. Element is a zero sugar electrolyte drink mix that helps anyone stay hydrated without the dodgy ingredients and artificial colors found in popular electrolyte and sports drinks. I put 1 stick of Element into my giant tumbler every morning before I do my workout. And not only have I grown to love its salty taste, I love all the flavors I've tried. My very favorite have to be raspberry and the chocolate caramel, and maybe the citrus and the watermelon. Okay, I clearly love them all. I have also been loving having fewer headaches and less leg cramps waking me up at night. Our podcast manager, Taylor, is a big fan too and has been for some time, as she has used Element to aid her hydration as a workout instructor long before they became a sponsor. Element is for everyone, from Navy SEALs to Olympians to moms like me. Get your free Element sample pack with any purchase at drinkelement.com/progress. Also try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water. I love this water too, and it's the perfect pickup in the late afternoon or early evening. If you don't like what you order, Element will refund your order, no questions asked. Again, get your free Element sample pack with any purchase at drinkelement.com/progress. For years, I have been teaching women how to do habits differently. I've been so grateful to see the concepts that have changed the most for you, with responses from women in our community like, "You're changing the habit game for all of us, and this is so needed, and you should write a book on this." Well, guess what? I am. And I'm already so eager for you to get your hands on it, hopefully early 2026. And since I can't share the title yet, and since I'm very likely to self-publish, I need a committee of gal pals, if you will, like you, who are ready to be my early test readers, to pre-order the book, and to act as grassroots publicists the moment each of those steps are made ready. Would you like to be on that book launch committee? Get on the list by going to aboutprogress.com/book committee. Even if you just want to be first in the know with any book news, that's where you sign up. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/book committee. It's in the show notes for you. I can't wait to share as much as I can with you along the way, and I'm already so grateful for your support. So let's talk about how to actually do this. How can we live more boldly in the bodies we have now and
Mhm.
as our bodies change as we get older?
I, One of them is it's kind of doing some work that can help move along, the what I call the body image spectrum. One end of the body image spectrum might be body hate. Like, I can't stand my body. Disgusting is a word I hear a lot of women use. I
Yeah.
hate my body. And then there's body dislike, and there's body neutrality, and there's body acceptance, there's body like, and there's body love. That's what I kind of perceive. I'm sure a lot of people could find a lot of different lovely words along the way. And I find that when women can begin moving, and one is, having conversations like this, of realizing that there is actually a whole nother way of being able to look at this. For some women, it has never occurred to them that they don't have to try to lose weight, that is even an option. And anytime we move, like even if we're still in a very negative body image space, when we start moving from the body hate to a more positive outlook on it, you can start to feel some relief. And I always remind women of a certain exercise that I like to do. Do you have a picture of yourself like when you were younger and you didn't like your body then, and you were like maybe obsessing about your body a lot at that time, and
Sure.
you didn't like it, and you look at that picture now and you are like, what in the world did I have an issue with that body? Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
what is that problem? Most women can relate to that experience. And that is because it wasn't the body that was the issue then. It's not the body that's the issue now. It's our perspective around our bodies. And that perspective can shift and change. The body that you have now is the body that you will wish you had 10, 15 years from now. And starting to learn to appreciate things about the body you have now. Well, my stomach is not what I would like it to be, but I also have this body that I can do X, Y, and Z with, and begin to start to remind oneself of some of the things that it does do for you that you like, that adds to like your get to life. Um, and and begin to start to shift and change a little bit from the more negative, and remembering that, the perspective about our body can change. Like we can change that. It's it's a reminder that like the line will always move. I think this hit me really hard after childbirth.
Hmm.
When I had my first child, there were parts of my body that I always like. They were the ones I do what is called body checking in the mirror. They were the ones I was squishing and trying to be like, is there any angle that this can look any kind of smaller? Like, what if this looked smaller? What would my body look like? And I remember after I had my first child, that area of my body was just massacred with stretch marks, just really bright, wide, deep purple stretch marks. And I felt like my stomach had sunk. I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Horrible was what I thought. And at that moment, I realized that this part of my body that I had hated so much before, that I really didn't like, that I wished was so different, I would give anything to have back. I would
Hmm.
have given anything to have it back at that point. I'd spent all that time and energy disliking it. And now, one change in my body, and I would have given anything to have it before. And that's what I always want learn to remember, is that that line will always move. So working on, this is the body that I have now, and what are the things that I can appreciate about this body, is not a magic light switch that it all of a sudden leads to, you know, oh, now I like my body. This is great. But it starts to change the internal narrative of constantly thinking, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. To, okay, maybe there's some things about this that aren't so bad. And what if we start spending some more time there?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's equal parts. It feels like a massive undertaking to rewire the way you see your body. But at the same time, the way you get there is through this very practical and small method of just trying to switch to some appreciation of it,
Yeah.
for what it can do and what it's allowing you to experience, which also goes hand in hand with what you talked about earlier about living in your body, actually experiencing it.
Mhm.
Can we continue with that idea too? Like, what are some ways they can shift to that boldness, which doesn't even seem that bold, but it is, right? Like to actually be present in your body for experiences.
Yeah, I think if there's some experiences that I've mentioned that would resonate with somebody, I would say, like, if somebody's like, yeah, the first thing I do when I go out to eat is I stress about what I'm eating. Say, what would it be like to try out, just go and say, you know, I'm going to find the first thing that sounds good to me and I'm just going to order it, and begin flexing some of those muscles. If it's somebody who, one we haven't talked about yet, but like maybe changes outfits like 20 times before they go out the door and is still, I'm always like, were you happy? Did you finally find the outfit you were happy with? They're like, no, I just still wasn't happy. It's like,
Okay.
what would it be like to say, okay, I can have 2 outfit changes, and I'm going to stay with that. And I'm going to say that like, I'm not super happy with what I see in the mirror, but I have a life to live and I need to go out and be able to live it. Like, I'm not going to allow this to continue to drag me down here. You know, what would it be like to have some of the courage to maybe show up visibly in pictures? Another thing we hadn't talked much about is a lot of times women will avoid being in pictures.
Yeah.
What would it be like in 2025 to make a commitment to oneself to say, I'm going to show up in the family pictures.
Okay.
And it's not going to matter what I'm wearing. And, and that might be the step. It might be not be looking at the pictures and feeling great about them yet, but the first step might be being in the pictures, and then there's work that I do with my clients a lot of times around, pictures and starting to feel better about what they see in a picture. But being there and doing the thing is the first thing, and starting to decide where in my area am I holding myself, where in my life am I holding myself back because of the way I feel about my body.
So this kind of path I'm seeing, is we're paying attention to where we are in this body image spectrum that you brought up, trying to shift away from shame and hatred to neutrality to like to love. I'm sure I didn't get all the terminology right, but somewhere along there. So starting with appreciation and having that lens of curiosity by asking, what would it be like? And then trying to step into that. What would it be like? Well, if I weren't worrying about my body, I would actually just hug my family members in the photo and be present for that feeling of being in that moment and with my family and the times we're having together instead of worrying about the way I'm posed. So it's doing something to actually follow through with what it would be like.
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And what happens is that, if we can kind of face like, what is it that I'm afraid of? If I'm in these pictures
Okay.
with my family, is it that you're afraid that of way they're going to think about the way you look? Is it the way you feel about the way you look? Starting to get under that a little bit. Like, wait, some of that behavior is so normalized in our society, avoiding being in pictures. And so kind of getting under that a little bit can be helpful and saying, I I will be okay if I'm in the picture, even if I don't like the picture. I will be okay. And my kids will have pictures to be able to remember me by down the road, much longer in life. That we'll remember this moment together. And, by doing the thing, and us being okay on the flip side of it, it starts to become more natural. Our confidence starts growing in doing these things. And it doesn't become this kind of this thing that we just have built a lot of fear around and feel like we have to stay away from.
So as you've been talking, I've been thinking about this word bold. And when I think about that spectrum, I just want to honor the people who are like, but they think that to live boldly means they're suddenly jumping to the other side of the spectrum, that they're jumping from like not even swimming with a family to suddenly wearing a string bikini and taking all the pictures. So I just want to help the people who are struggling with that mentality that means I just have to jump to doing the craziest, scariest, hardest things. And I already know the answer from you just because of our conversation so far that boldly doesn't mean that. So can you tell us what it actually means then for them
Yeah.
so they can do this?
Every time that we don't allow these messages that we get about our bodies that make us feel like we don't like our bodies, because we weren't born that way. I mean, think about your toddler, Monica. I mean, is your toddler ashamed of their body? I mean, most of the
No.
time we're trying to get them to put clothes on their bodies.
Yep.
instead of
Yeah.
running around naked. That all of us have that toddler. Like we were taught along the way that there's something about our bodies that's not okay or that we should be working on or changing. And so anytime that we are pushing back on that message where it makes us want to shrink ourselves smaller, and instead we're taking a step to do something different than what we feel like we quote unquote should be doing because of that message. When if we choose not to, like, this is the year of 2025 where I'm not going on a diet. I do it every year and I'm not going to do it this year. That's bold.
Okay.
When I say I'm going to find a swim dress that I feel more comfortable in, and try to be in the water and try to be able to allow myself to relax and focus on just get lost in having fun with my family. That's bold.
Mm.
That's bold. I think it's any steps that we're taking towards pushing back on that message that we should not be okay with our bodies and that they should be a lifelong project, and that there are things that we should or shouldn't be doing, because our body's not ready yet, quote unquote ready. That's bold.
Okay, I'm so glad that we were able to chat about that because I am one of those people. I've spent almost 2 decades now in recovery and it's always a work in progress, but I am definitely so much farther up that spectrum than I was 20 years ago. But nobody will ever see me in a bikini, like no one. And that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
still living life boldly in my cute mom one piece and being in the pictures and going on the hikes or going to the dance class that I
Yep.
used to think I couldn't go to anymore. That's what we want. I think the boldness is that you're living your life in a
Mhm.
world that wants you to be shrunk away.
That's it. That's it. And so bold for one person is going to be different for another person. If it's the
Mhm.
thing, if there's definitely things that I've said here that I know for some women are like, that kind of
Ah,
feels a little scary. So like
yeah.
what's a step if that's a direction that you want to take, that you want to feel like you have what I call is like a little more wiggle room in your life in that area where it doesn't feel as oppressive or restricting? Like what's one step that you can find to move in that direction? What feels right for you? And it doesn't mean that boldness looks like one thing for everybody. Like you mentioned, it doesn't mean that you reach boldness when you're in the string bikini, the thong bikini,
Yeah,
that's more popular now. Then
I
you've
know.
reached boldness. That's not what we're talking about here, because bold is relative for
Mhm,
each person. And it's more so about if there's a message that's telling you you can't until, you know, or you shouldn't, or your body's not ready, or you need to fix it first. It's pushing back on that some in a practical way that is the amount that that person's ready for. Anytime we're pushing back on that, that's boldness.
mhm. Especially in a world that's telling you to do anything but.
Anything but.
Taking up space in any way, is bold. Oh, this has been such a needed conversation. Meg, I always end with one final question, but before we do that, where should people go if they want to learn more from you?
Well, on Instagram, I hang out at meg.hadley. And you can go to my website, meghadley.com. And I have a workbook that women have loved working through that I can send you a link for. That's not a link I can rattle off if you want it
Sure.
for the show notes, Monica, but it's a workbook that it's broken up in 4 steps for women to be able to reflect on some of these things about their own individual experiences. It
Okay.
has the body image spectrum in it. It talks more about that as well. And so I can certainly link that in there as well.
We will make sure we link to that. So, yeah, email me after and we'll put it in the show notes. So, we always end with this question, and it's what is one small way women can take action on what they learned today?
One small way that women could take action on what they learned today would be, I think, to remind themselves that the line always moves, that the body that they have now is the body that they'll wish they had 10
Mhm,
to 15 years from now. And maybe to decide for themselves what life would look like differently if they could wave that magic wand and feel more comfortable in their bodies. Like, what if I wasn't worried about what my body would look like? what would be different, and maybe journal about that some, and say, is there anything in here that I want to do, like an area that I want to lean into more, to try to have more freedom in that area, more ease, more peace, more enjoyment.
Beautiful. Megan, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. This was wonderful.
Yeah, that was so great. I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. I'll now share the progress pointers. These are the notes I took so you don't have to. And those on my newsletter get them in a graphic form each week. You can sign up at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. Number 1, our bodies shift with hormones, pregnancy, health, and age. Regardless of why, the message we often get can be summed up in 2 words: try harder. If you're tired of your body feeling like a lifelong project, what if you were to instead try to live more boldly in the body you have now? Number 2, whatever you are waiting to do or to try for when your body becomes smaller, what if you were to do them or to try them? What if you were to stay grounded in your body and be present with something that otherwise would have been robbed thanks to fear or comparison? Number 3, you don't have to accept your body fully to live more boldly in it. There is a spectrum to body image. Even some small shifts from hate to like would make a big difference. Begin by identifying what your body can do now that you appreciate and working to embody the experiences you're having but missing. Number 4, curiosity helps a lot. Ask, what would it be like? And what am I afraid of when it comes to the areas of your life you're holding back in thanks to your body? And number 5, any steps you take should be considered bold. Bold for one person will not be bold for another. Just take the steps that feel bold enough for you to challenge the fears you have and the insecurities you carry. Your Do Something challenge this week is to remind yourself that the line always moves. The body you have now is the body you will wish you still had in 10 to 15 years. And just a little extra credit, Do Something challenge for you is to journal on what you would do if you thought less about food and your body. Again, I know this is a very sensitive topic. I hope in it you didn't find this all or nothing approach that either you should never care about your body or you should obsess over it. It's always something in between, right? This podcast is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits, from more time to more content with me, including More Personal, my private premium, always ad-free podcast where I lean into the personal side of personal development. The Supporters Club makes my work free and available for all. I invite you to join the club by going to aboutprogress.com/support. You can always support the show for free. The best way is to share it with a friend. Other free things include make sure you have subscribed or are following the show, leave a review, and subscribe to us on YouTube, which is really important right now. Thank you so much for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today. So let's talk about how to actually do this. Like, how can we live more let me say this again. How